So welcome to the We Space, and this is our last part of Centifolia, because the journey has just begun for some of us. Some of us are then immersing into the experience of Centisophia, where we're taking whatever came out of this collective. We're going to take our beautiful seeds, which you all had an opportunity to hear yesterday from our last circle sharing, right? We went into this process yesterday from being super inspired and listen to people, narrative and ideas, to then bringing it to ourselves and embody it and bringing it to the different tables and groups. And then we had the opportunity of actually creating things together, and that was really exciting. And of course, we have, thank you for the host, because we have most of the harvesting, we call it, right, that we need to then create a document where we're going to be able to share, not only with you, but really with the whole world, about not only what happened and where were the outcomes, but as well, how is that we got to get there, right? And think about it as a journey to the mountain. If the journey to the mountain would be Centisophia in the last day, it's like we reached just the half. So you guys, the ones that are not staying, are part of that process. Your bodies might not be here, but your ideas and your intention and the values that you were expressed have been documented, have been recorded. So it's really the outcomes of Centisophia would be all of us. And for those who are going to stay, it's going to be a very powerful journey, because we're going to go into the deep dive of co-creation and the spirit of what it means to bring a diverse group of people of different ages, of different walks of life, different industries, and focus on the cosmetics and beauty industry for a half day, 1 day and a half. So that's going to be absolutely amazing. And today, as the beginning of Centisophia, we're going to really create space. We're going to not spend the most energy like we did yesterday. We're going to just build the field and keep the field together. So, in this last week space, we're going to hear about some people that have been part of the process of building Centifolia. So we're going to hear about Catherine, and we're going to hear from Jean-Francois, and you're going to hear from the design team, which you're doing now, and our value champions, who is schema students that came to witness and be part of the process. And we're going to then conclude our session with Phil. So that is, and we want you to have also a space of expression. Now that's a lot, and we have only like a space of half an hour. So we have to be very agile here. So I'm going to invite Gunther to speak right now about, and Dominique, because I want him to express what is as you remember yesterday, part of the narratives came from the inspiration sessions, and part of the narrative came from the global collective intelligence, came from what we harvest from the intelligence out there, intelligence in the edges. And we want to hear from him how we got to that process, because it's really inclusive, and we began working much before we came. So it was not like just tapping to some statistics out there. We really were working with the narratives with truth and good and beauty and the cosmetics and beauty industry of different countries. So we're going to be hearing from him as well. So we have something around probably a little less than 5 minutes for these people that I just mentioned, plus and whatever we have for all of us sharing, that would be great. So Gunther, can you please go and build the bridge in between what happened today and then Centisophia as a continuation of our process.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, as you participated and witnessed yesterday, well, not just yesterday, but today as well, the Centifolia is sort of the table setting process. So in a normal journey that we take when we develop ideas and turn them into actual solutions, you do the table setting part, right, which is establishing context and building narratives, which we did. You also were involved in role playing, okay? And these are sort of representations of what happens in the real world sometimes, and also what's possible. So it's a little bit of the known and a lot of bit of the unknown. What is really special about this is we have curated intelligence from the outside and brought it inside. And now we're building a bridge between that data. And as Dominique will talk to in a moment, this is essentially how we use technology effectively. And so technology is really the composition of all of you participating in a narrative, thoughtful application and use of tools to produce a series of outcomes. So there's an intellectual outcome, which is what we're doing now, artistic outcome. And then tomorrow what we're going to do is refine that and deepen that intelligence to the extent that we are actually going to see solutions manifest. And this is the type of work we do all over the world with people like yourselves. So it's a really fantastic framework. I'm going to pass the baton over to Dominique, who I'm thrilled was here and is participating, and he'll talk to you more about the process of curating data and story.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm going to sit. So the process of curating data is really, I would say, a test and trial. So as I explained a little bit yesterday, one of the big part of the process, because there is big data everywhere, is to find out who are the people behind the data. So we did a few experimentation after having discussed with Jean-François and some other people in the team. So we looked at truth, good and beauty, and we look at how we could find the expression of truth, good and beauty using linguistic and adjectives, and looking at out of the 1,000 tribes that we have built and that we have discovered, which one were the most relevant and how truth, good and beauty was expressed in these different tribes. And we find some interesting things, and for some part we didn't find what we expected. So then we looked at the beauty tribe themselves, the cosmetic tribes, and we mapped them. So that's what we're doing on an ongoing basis. And then we also look at other tribes who had some I would say comparable characteristic, like the wine tribe, like the nail tribe, and we look at whether we could surface conversations and group of conversation that were in line with the narrative that Fernanda and Gunther wanted to talk about. So it's really, I would say, an experimental journey in this organized view of social media, getting directly from the conversation of the people, and looking at it from different angles. So we work quite a bit on this data. And sometimes we find things, sometimes we don't. So we found things relative to how, let's say, different level of influencer interact with brand or brands and talk about brands. And this is also very very interesting piece of data to see that the farther you are down on the long tail, the less you talk about brand. That's quite interesting. And we have a full file of insight which I'll be interesting to share with you. And if you have any question on methodology, so it's difficult to describe because it's really an iterative process. So we look at the content and the relationship to find a group of people, and then we look at the group of people to find the insight. And sometimes, based on the insight that we find, we recompose the grouping of people. So.
Thank you. And one of the things that has been mentioned, and I think that completes what you guys have been saying, is that we're also going to feed back again into the tool what is that we discovered here in our collective process together, because we want Centisophia to continue to be that breathing in between the inside and the outside. And in a very more precise way, because we have actual Twitter names of influencers, and we want to be speaking to them, and we want to be asking them questions, and we want them to interact in the space. And it is possible. Now it is possible. So that is kind of the bridge. And as Gunther said before, it's like if we all had become technologists and storytellers during this process, and creators, co-creators. Thank you. So we're good in time. Thank you, Dominique, for being aware of that. And I will just want a bridge from you, Adipat, about the creation of story and how we're doing that in regards to the filming that you've been doing, and what would be the outcomes that we will show people, and how is the process, what has been the process of you as a storyteller in this event. Thank you.
Well, let me talk in terms of what we've learned, or especially what I've learned in the context of being here in an industry that is not part of my everyday life. I tell stories, I create stories, but actually applying them to an industry, learning about brand, learning about audience, learning about how people in your field and your industry can really use a creative process to level the interaction between audience and the design process is actually very enlightening. The other thing that we thought we were going to do when we came here was a passive way of recording what we were doing. So I've been working, or had the pleasure to work with David, and to make a film. But actually, what has come out of that is a more active engagement in terms of using the film process to actually be able to design how we can go forward, work together, and use media in a way that is a lot more powerful and has a lot more impact in terms of not only marketing, but also the way we design, co-create, and have a better sense of process. So that's been quite enlightening. And also learning that fruit de mer is very difficult to eat on a table of people is another thing that I learned here. So I'd like to share that with you. But so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, so as we've been speaking, one of the things we could bring to the center of course, is the WeSpace, is collect the documents that you all, the hosts, provided, and be reading them one by one. But I really want you to understand that those are part of the process, and taking into account to bring them to Centisophia. That is what's most valuable, that they're the beginning, they're the seedlings of the intention that would hopefully grow into beautiful trees and beautiful flowers. And we don't know the outcomes because we're going into some journey together. And then the deliverable from Centifolia would be that you will have, and Centisophia, is that you would have written documentation and you would have video documentation from the process. And that's what we're committed to do as a design team, as providing value for the event, so that then you can bring it to your own organizations, you can create something in it, you can put it on the drawer, or you can continue to seed those intentions. It's for you to choose. That's where people's responsibility come, right? Whether if we convert it into one of these events where we go, we talk, and then nothing happens, it really depends on each of you. The ripples, some of them are really not for us to trace, to track. Some of those will be from Centisophia. Some of those are really about you guys bringing it over, keeping it alive. So I would like to give the microphone to Jean-François.
Thank you very much. Well, for me, I feel completely blown away by what I have experienced on two levels. First, what happened here as a collective intelligence process, like all the methodologies, and believe me, it comes as completely experimental, not a kind of industrial process like we've done, 10,000 times before, completely experimental. So we all share that experience with, trials and errors and then outcomes from that. So I really wanted to share how strong this experience feels for me. About the perfume and cosmetics sector, something came to my mind like a couple of weeks ago, thinking about the experience economy. Remember, in the experience economy, selling more does not become the relevant business model. Building experience together becomes the business model. Building wealth, integral wealth, becomes the business model. And then I realized, in the old world, we say perfumes and cosmetics. That means with the naming of it, we'll still focus on perfumes and cosmetics as the object. We don't talk about the experience. We talk about the object. And maybe in the future, why don't we talk about fragrance as an experience and well-being as an experience? And it doesn't matter whether it comes by buying something or by conversations and tribe and building wealth. So maybe also we will see that, remember how important for me ontology feels, how words really build meaning and stories. And so maybe we will witness and maybe we can encourage also this evolution. Maybe the next Centifolia will speak not about perfumes and cosmetics, but about fragrance and well-being. And from that perspective, well, about fragrance, maybe we don't talk that much about the perfume in a bottle, but about spaces and experience. Why don't we think about how a whole city could smell? A car, a company, a community, an environment. Maybe an ecosystem doesn't smell that good. Smell says something about an ecosystem or about a place. So maybe we can really extend that as a community work and not just a commodity work. So one thought about it. Also, I feel very, very moved to see how in 2 years the universal values of truth, goodness, and beauty, they really came into our collective reality. I remember when we prepared Centifolia 2 years ago, 2011, how hard we had to stick to this direction, really to hold into it, because it could have turned, so easy to just come into the conventional business methodologies and talk the language that industries feel comfortable with. But we really hold to, those universal values, those primary values, and now I see how alive they show up in every one of us. I feel very moved by that. I can also see now how important the narrative has become. So yes, we don't talk about markets and social categories and territories anymore. We talk about where stories happen, where narratives happens. And of course, how do we see that? We can just spot it. You cannot just, appear as an external thing, looking at it like you analyze that. You can only look at it because you become part of it. You cannot separate, the observer and the experimenter and the experience anymore. You have to become part of the experience. And I think from the collective intelligence evolution, wow, what a great thing. You can't separate anymore. I can also see how important this word that I did not mention this time, holopticism, becomes central. Holopticism from holos, holistic, the whole, and opticism, see the whole. And here, this happens. We as individuals, we have a connection to our whole here, and the whole as a we can also connect to the I. And in whatever future we do, whether we talk about building collectives, building a company, building a tribe, building a local community, small or big, we need to connect the individual to the whole and the whole to the individual. That means then we get rid of chains of command. Not because I think, on the moral perspective, they do bad. I just think they cannot work that efficiently compared to holopticism when we connect to the whole. Holopticism is, I don't speak it just as a concept. We know it very well when we play in a sports team at a small level. And of course the challenge comes when we want to scale up. How do we build augmented holopticism with global communities? And my invitation here, how can we keep this question very, very alive so that as an individual, I know what I can do, how I can contribute because I have this sense of the whole. So what kind of technologies can we build, and platforms and methodologies and behaviors and social codes can we build within ourselves to really facilitate holopticism all the time? And again, if you don't want to keep it as an abstract concept, think of yourself in a jazz band or a sports team. Just project yourself in this context and ask yourself, how do I make it global or at a large scale with lots of players? I think I feel complete for now. Thank you very much.
No, not yet. So speaking about holopticism, one thing that I forgot to ask, one of the things that we want to complete as part of the passive harvesting or documentation for our process is to be able to leave as much tracks in the snow, as much tracks as we can, so we follow that holopticism, those wishes from the collective. So when you go outside, you will see a display that our wonderful visual graphic facilitator has been creating, Roberta, who is Roberta. And she created the wishes for the wishes tree, which is a wishes for the future of the industry. So before you go, make sure to grab a small post-it and write your wishes for the future in the industry. Again, all this harvesting, all this documentation is what we're compiling to then be able to synthesize and bringing it back to the whole. Okay, so make sure that you do that. And now I would want to give the microphone to Marie-Laure.
Yes, I'm going to give the microphone to Marie-Laure, but as well to all the participants, the attendees.
Yes, but he gave me a list.
The entrepreneurs and the students and everyone who would like to share their feeling about what happened during these 2 days and what kind of gift they received. So I would love to hear some of you, so the one who would like to share with us their feelings. I would be really happy with that. So Marie-Laure, I knew that you wanted to share something, so I'll give you the microphone. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing.
That's fine. What do I want to share? So many things. First of all, I'm going to be sad to be leaving all of you. My eye will be missing the we. But on another side, I'm glad. I'm going to go back to the men of my life, husband and son. Okay, so it's also a good end, and it has to end. But I will take with me a lot of things. The first thing maybe is that I put some words and some let's say sustainable words and ideas on what have been for me intuition for many years. Being a CEO in the cosmetic and beauty industry, experience, fragrance, well-being industry or whatever. It's true that I had the intuition that there was like a slowing down in the process of innovation, and the number of innovations versus when I started in the 80s and 90s to work in that sector. And it occurred and it came to my mind that maybe and probably now one of the reasons is that the pyramid organization is really an obstacle to unleash innovation. It's not really agile, although to face globalization of the world, a lot of the cosmetic companies have organized some metrics organization. So probably the second thing I'd like to share with you is, as a leader, I'm going to go back to work and probably in the pyramid organization. And question is, how we'll face that? Am I going to make trial to make the pyramid organization evolve? Does it make sense to rearrange the blocks? I don't know. And after discussing with Bruno and Sylvie and many people there is a trend that probably it's useless and we better leave them alone and die by themselves. But anyway, I cannot do that because if I'm back to that world, I cannot be the chief inspirer. I'm going to be the CEO, but maybe we can change. Do you have copyrights on that or no? Okay. So we probably I'm going to take steps. Second thing I learned a lot more that I used to know about tribes, and definitely what we call today consumer marketing can no longer exist. Not only in my mind, in our minds, but in a daily life of a marketing department, as it used to daily operate. So I'm going to probably, the first step for me would be to assess the stage of consciousness of the organization itself as a we, and as each people in the organization, and see their level of consciousness towards this kind of notion and system, living in the pyramid as they are today. Doing that, I might probably do my best, and not myself, but maybe with the HR people, maybe with anyone that wants to help, to try to identify what Bruno called the pioneers. And people in the organization, wherever they are, that could be the seed for tomorrow's evolution of the pyramid future organization, and preserve them and protect them to make sure they can grow new type of organization and make the pyramid evolve or change radically. What I could do maybe also is to use new dashboards and catching up on what Jean-François just said, probably use the true goodness and beauty as a universal dashboard throughout the company, whatever level, whatever position, and try. I will do also it in my personal life, but back in the industry, try to implement that new dashboard. Change some words, because we can start with ontology also. And I've liked the wealth circle instead of the supply chain.
I hope.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's it.
So now we want to follow Catherine's recommendation. And here's a microphone. Whoever wants to take it from the center, we have an open space. And we have 10 minutes. So let's be aware of what is that we want to share, and let's keep a good flow.
Just a few words that I wanted to say. It's more around a bit the fragrance business, but it was really interesting to have all these experiments from the different people. But at the end of the day, the more I think about it, and when we think about the naturals that we use, because we are in Grasse, and at some point we are also looking at the way we can better keep the heritage, use the natural resources that the farmers and the local producers are growing for us. We are in an industry for fragrance of big gap and disconnection, because if you think about the crops that we are using, they are very, very small. To give you an example of vanilla or patchouli, which are probably the bigger crops that we use in our industry, it's only 1,000 to 2,000 tons worldwide production. So it means 10,000 or 100,000 smaller crops than the major ones like rice, like tomato, like soya, all these crops. What does it mean? It means, if you translate it into fragrances, that it will be impossible, and it's the dream of every CEO of big companies, to have, for instance, a fragrance like J'adore sold to 500 million people, because we will never be able to supply the ingredients of the formula. In the meantime, the disconnection is the fact that today we say we don't use enough naturals, but the boundaries are very narrow between I don't use enough and I cannot use too much. So a kind of conclusion that we can have, at least for fragrances, because for cosmetics it's probably different because of the activity of the ingredients. But for fragrances, what is sure is that the globalization is impossible if you want to have quality into your fragrances, means some kinds of authenticity, and that at some point the new business model, and here we come back to the new architectures of what we try to figure out for the future, will come from small businesses, because you cannot have high quality ingredients which are and will remain scarce whatever happens. And I think this authenticity and these new business models that we are trying to build are a huge opportunity for the entrepreneur in our business, but are a kind of very big limit for the major players of today. So this is one of the points that I wanted to take to the audience. So that's all.
So here's the part where I become very rigid. So we have very little time. So the less, words, let's keep it, because we have so many people that probably would want to share. So please, awareness of our time.
Well, good morning to everybody. I had the chance to work with some of you during the event yesterday, and have the opportunity to meet some of you this morning and yesterday during the cocktail. I'm part of the Esquema alumni now, and when we were invited over 3 weeks ago to the event, it was amazing. Not all of us could attend. Esquema is a big business school here in the south of France, and it's been a terrific experience for us, participating with Fernanda, with Gunter, with Adipat, and honestly, when I personally came to this event, I did not come prepared at all. So I was not expecting this amount of knowledge. You guys really are inspiring. And it's been amazing learning from each of the person in this room and how they feel. Because generally, when you join this type of event, it's something very rigid. Like you talk. Now we're talking more about how you feel and what you expect from the future. And hopefully, and very soon, we'll be able to join. Perhaps one of your companies or in the perfumery sector will be able to join you guys and really take everything that you learned today and share it with the younger generations and share it with the people at work. And as Pavi say, just smile and try to bring goodness to share. And I know I come from Colombia, and in Colombia, well, Colombians, I don't know, we've been Catholics as one of the happiest people on earth. So every day we walk out of the house, we try to smile, we say hi to everybody, we're very chatty. And I've been living in France for almost a year, and it's very impressive seeing how cold French people tend to be, but it's also very nice to know that people like you were here to share, and we're here to change that perspective that people from all over the world have from you. So congratulations to the event. Enjoy Grasse if you have the time, and thank you for Centifolia.
We have one more sharing, and then we go to our closure. Please. Two more. We'll have two.
Okay. Well, I would like to suggest that we use the letters from the word Grasse to kind of like summarize some of the ideas that we've shared together. So G, R-A-S-S-E. G could stand for generosity, R for reliance, A for abundance, S for sustainability, the other S for social responsibility, and the E for empathy.
I hope.
So, how do you like that?
We would like to have that for our harvesting. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate very much. I'm a stranger. I'm Michael Edwards. Some of you, I think, know my work, Fragrance of the World, Perfume Legends. I'm here really to give you the challenge for the future, to wrap up what you talk about innovation. 20 years ago, there were 112 new perfumes. 10 years ago, there were 438 perfumes we tracked. Last year, on the database, we tracked 1,330. This year, we're heading towards 1,500. Flankers, limited editions, confusion. Allure magazine summed up the problem when in one article they said trying to find the right fragrance is almost as hard as trying to find the right man. It's a problem. Add to that the fact that the brands are more and more looking for perfumes with broad appeal, but the problem is trying to get broad appeal means you're going to end up with the best of the worst and the worst of the best. You're going to get mediocre, pretty, nice, forgettable perfumes. It's really tough, as you know, to come up with a perfume that has broad appeal, that has a signature. Happy by Clinique, perfect fusion of flowers and fragrance. But that's rare. For me, we're in a fragmented industry. Giorgio at its peak never had more than 1.8% of the American market, but it had over 100 million. And for me, fragrance must be confrontational. It must be polarizing. Give me a fragrance that 80% of people dislike, but 10% of people are addicted to, and I'll give you a $200 million brand. Our challenge is the communication in the future, the communication with the brands, because many of the product managers don't have the expertise that you have in this room. And your challenge is to take what has become almost a commodity market and put some pleasure back into it. I hope you'll do it. My best wishes.
I hope. Woo! That's a wish for the future. That we want for our tree of the wishes for the future. Thank you very much. Jean-François. Take a run.
Okay, yeah, one last thing I forgot to share with I think has some relevance for all of us. You see, we have this event here. We build our narrative. And at the same time, we do that in the world. I mean, we don't have any more difference between like a local event and it stays isolated and bye-bye, and something global. All the way through Centifolia and then Centisophia, we keep connected to the world. We send narrative and experiences to the world, and also back from the world. So I just wanted to point how new an experience this may look like or may feel, because we don't have that separation anymore, and it really builds into our methodologies. And whatever events we will build in the future, we want to keep this awareness that what happens here can be sent to the world, and we can also receive from the world at the same time with all this communication. Thank you.
Can you bring the microphone? Bring the microphone. Thank you. So as we did yesterday, we want to have a one round of everyone. And this is going to be a very quick round, and we're going to share in one word something that we want as like an action word, a verb, something that we want to do out in the world. One word. And we're going to start with Phil, and we're going to end with Catherine.
Inspiration.
Evolve.
Desire.
Smile.
Inspiration.
Création.
Act. Change.
Nature.
Faire.
Le contraire.
Mutation.
Responsibility.
Sustain.
Planter un arbre.
Giftism.
Agir.
Volonté.
Partage.
Giving.
Tolérance.
Small is beautiful.
Generosity.
Conviction.
Intention.
Understand.
Education.
Embody.
Heart.
Disruptive.
Bonheur.
Feeling.
Dive.
Stillness.
Passion.
People.
New world.
Joy.
Fight.
Communauté.
Donner, même sans recevoir.
Exemplarité.
Gift.
Déstabiliser.
Gift.
Communauté.
Espoir.
Engagé.
Society.
Paint.
Imagination.
Shift.
Humour.
Remercier.
Pioneering.
Gardien. Economy of emotion.
To win.
Dare.
Go. Act. I've been asked to be part of the closing, so I'd like to share a few words with you. First of all, I am today, at that right moment, at the present moment, I am very much moved by the end of this day or this morning. So it was very difficult for me to focus again and concentrate again, to be full of myself, to express what I would like to share with you right now. Why I've been moved? It's because at the end of this morning, I think that the wrap-up, or the wrapping, how do you say, wrap-up, has been done already by Pavi. So after Pavi, for me it's absolutely very, very difficult to express myself. Nevertheless, I've got to do it. So I'd like to share my own feeling, my personal feeling about these 2 days. I would talk about inspiration. Yes, I've been inspired, and I hope that you've been inspired as well. Yesterday we had tools to make all the wells visible. We as well learn to break the rules, because when you break the rules, when you break the convention, something new, clear happen. And I really realize that when we break the rules, you free the creativity, and it makes you enjoy. So I really appreciate that yesterday. As well, I've been moved by the contribution of all of you. What was really very interesting is that we had many or different generations, and that is very interesting because everyone play the game. Everyone was there. Everyone was with joy after breaking the rules, as well after daring to go through uncomfortable zones. Yes, when I had to look in the eyes of the lady who was in front of me, one step and one step and one step, finally I realized that the more I was approaching her, the more I felt freedom and I was at ease. The beginning, we didn't want to look at each other, and it was really interesting because at the end of this exercise, there was something which shifted. So that was really interesting to continue the work. Now, I'd like as well to say that today I could get 2 learnings. First of all, it is possible. The world is changing. We've seen it this morning, really. There is the transformation of the world has started. So it's good news for me because I really saw concrete initiative which could really demonstrate that we were not just in a dream. Even if we need to dream, there is really realities going on. The second learning is definitely we need to support the pioneers. We need to support the pioneers. We need to help them to emerge from our companies if we can, and if we can't, create startups with pioneers. So I'm definitely convinced of that. Talking about pioneers, we had pioneers this morning, and what I felt is, yes, we need to support them, even the one that we listened to this morning, because I felt that they can be very quickly exhausted, drawn. Even if they have joy, they can be drawn as well, because they need support. They need more support from all over the people. I mean, from the people who are around them. So I really realized that, and it touched me because I am part of the CIRI, the Collective Intelligence Research Institute, who participated, of course, in the conception and creation of this event. And the team is as well exhausted because we gave a lot of us and from us with joy, definitely. But still, we need to be supported. And in a way, it's as well a call for support as well to the CIRI. If you want us to continue that kind of research, we need to be supported on many different forms, even the young pioneers from this morning. It doesn't mean only to give money, although we need conventional money because we have to travel and you know that we need a lot of things, but as well, I call from all other kind of donation, gifts more than donation. What does it mean? Share your skills. Give you miles. I love the gentleman who gave his seat in a plane, in business class. He gave his seat. Wow, that is a gift. That is wealth. And all that kind of wealth, we would love you to support as well the CIRI if we want to continue to offer you all that kind of research. And at the same time, I'm calling you to create this Centifolia community, to carry on sharing our experience together, get to know each other better, and carry on really this fantastic community to go further. And as well, we can bring help to each other. So I really call for Centifolia community, and a Centifolia community who could as well support the CIRI. I think that Léa or the team gave you a documentation about the series, so you will understand better what we are doing, apart from organizing events. Please do support them, as we need to support any pioneers that we can have around us. And also, I'd like to tell you that definitely I haven't got any more dream. have a deep will. No, I took the decision. More than that, I took the decision. After Centifolia, I am going to launch a mindful, not a word, but a 100% mindful organization. I am going to do it. So I call for pioneers to help me in this project. And I hope that after Centifolia, I will have really the prototype that I will be able to duplicate in my own project. So if you want to be a part of these pioneers, my arms are widely open. Come with us, and I would be really, really happy to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, so now it almost is the end. There's one thing I forgot to say earlier on, which is important. So let me just make two things clear before we leave this room. Please make sure that you give your questionnaires to Leah at the entrance of the room. But also, there are some gifts. I was so moved after Pavi's talk earlier on that I completely forgot to say this. But luckily she reminded me. There are gifts from Service Space at the back. So enjoy, take those gifts, and also think, what gifts can you give to other people, right? Pass it forward. And I think we need to think about gifts in terms of the gifts of inspiration we've received here and how we are going to inspire others. So what I'm going to do now is just to try to sum up some of the things that we've heard from our inspirers during this wonderful couple of days here in Grasse. And I'm going to do that in the form of a poem, which I wrote this morning. So forgive me, it's not very good. But let's give it a try. So, here at Centifolia 2013, let's take a look at what we've heard and all the things we've seen. We learned that what we thought was rich is making people poor. We need new wealth, true richness, which can promise so much more. The wisdom of tradition is the greatest inspiration and fires us in our mission to deliver innovation. And we can better innovate by working with the crowd. We have to make our tribes feel great and subtle signals loud. We learnt that story is a way to touch, to change, to move. And all the stories here these days are quite abundant proof. Chaos is not our enemy. Instead, it is our friend, a source of opportunity that gives and never ends. We have to learn to see ourselves, our world, in different ways, and cultivate connectedness each minute, hour, day. We learned to use technology to gamify, engage with meaningful experiences, live the digital age. Our social web we need to map, engage it actively, and ask to rise above the mass, to be or not to be. If we can learn to love our voice, to listen and to trust, in confidence we can rejoice, and raise our voice we must. Raise as well our consciousness of capital and thought, and change the world with happiness, developing as we ought. The forests are a luxury we cannot live without. So inset with the power of trees and throw offsetting out. Inspire with creativity. Do what you feel is right. Engage with authenticity, and you will shine a light of deepest inspiration to followers and beyond. Your brand will be a creation of which your world is fond. Collaborate compassionately for everybody's gain, remembering that wealth for me and you is not the same. Let's all embrace the power of gift and think, what can we start? As giftivists, we all can lift our brands, our minds, our hearts. Our appetites we all have fired, our rich ideas unfurled, and now we leave this place inspired to truly change the world. Thank you. Can you pass them around? Pass them around, okay? Pass it around. Everyone take one. Thank you. Thank you. Now, please stay standing up. Please stay standing up, because there's one last thing I really want to do here. Don't blow it up yet, okay? There's one last thing I really want to do. We're passing around some balloons, okay? So everybody, please take a balloon and pass it on. Take a balloon and pass it on. And when everyone's got a balloon, what we're going to do is we're going to blow up these balloons. I'd like you to think about all of these messages of inspiration that we've just heard, okay? There are people over here who don't have balloons. Can we get the balloons over here? Guys, take one and pass it on. Take one and pass it on. I have mine here. Of course, I have an orange balloon. So what I'd like us to do is to think about all of these messages, all of these pieces of inspiration, and then think, what touched me particularly? What gave me a desire to have the world change? What gave me an impulse to do that? What was the vision I wanted to see? And what am I going to dive into? So what am I going to do with that? So think about that. Think about giftivism. Think about inspiration. Think about creativity, experience, etc. And blow up that balloon. Close your eyes and think about what you're taking away and what you're going to do. Okay, and now as we tie up our balloon with all of our ideas, all of our inspiration, all of our impulse, all of our actions inside, as we tie up this balloon, we are taking the resolution that I am not going to let things stop here. I am not going to say, this was a nice conference, I learned some things, so what? I am going to change the world. It is not the inspirers or the organizers who are going to change the world. They've inspired you. It's up to you to go and inspire other people. So tie that balloon up and say, I am going to make a difference. I'm going to go out there and do something. I'm going to operationalize this, and somehow I'm going to change the world. And now I'd like you to take a few steps forward. It's very difficult to tie up a balloon while you're busy speaking in a microphone. Take a few steps forward. Come into the circle. And what I'd like you to do is share your ideas, share your motivation, share your actions. And let's keep all of these balloons together in the air. Because if we let our ideas drop, if we let what we aim to do drop, then it's as if we weren't here at all. It's as if we had nothing to do. So keep those ideas going. Keep them in the air. That is what you need to do when you leave this room. There we are. These are all of our ideas floating around. This is the energy. This is what we all need to carry on doing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you for everything you will do. Goodbye.